Hi, it's Tom from Digital Foundry here. We've had a chance to go hands-on with the much anticipated Star Wars Battlefront beta on PC recently. It's an interesting test for developer DICE, who is perhaps best known for its Battlefield series. Blending such a well-known franchise with a tried and tested sandbox gameplay design seems like a good idea on paper. And in practice, at the very least, it's one of the most authentic looking games to use the Star Wars license. So what have we got here? Well, 3 maps are included in the preview we attended to get this footage. This new one here being the 8v8 map called Solust, set around a tightly knit wasteland. Also in the mix is the 40-player Walker Assault mission on the snowy Hoth map, as also shown at E3 earlier this year, while the third is a wave-based survival mission on Tatooine's deserts. All this is coming in the public beta on PS4, Xbox One and PC later this week if you fancy giving it a try for yourself. But before that, here are 5 things you should know about how Star Wars Battlefront is shaping up on PC. First up, Star Wars Battlefront now has physically based lighting. Added just in time for development, physically based rendering changes the way lighting is handled on each map. Real world reference points are used here by a process called Photogrammetry. This essentially means materials from the original trilogy's filming locations and its props like lightsabers and guns are scanned into their system as a digital record. This is where the engine then comes in, with actual physical properties applied for each in-game weapon, character and map. Lighting reacts realistically, based on their colour, roughness, opacity or reflectance. It's one of the real standout points for the Star Wars Battlefront beta, and on this Solust map, everything looks really authentic. Take for example the glossy white armour on stormtroopers, which matches the materials we see in the films. It's an area that most 3D Star Wars games have tried to approximate and struggle to nail perfectly, but here it works. And to be clear, this is hardwired into the game. Between the PC's low settings right up to the ultra preset, physically based lighting is always in effect here. Number 2, the PC's graphics settings are very scalable. There's a lot of wiggle room in Battlefront's 4 graphics presets. For example, if top quality shadows and ambient occlusion are dragging your frame rate down, the lower grade presets still hold up a pretty decent visual experience while giving you better performance. As far as ambient occlusion goes, the low preset actually strips the effect out completely. Here we see this in effect as we change the setting from low, medium, high and ultra, and then back to low again. It's the same story for draw distances and texture filtering across the ground as well. As you can see in this wasteland shot, there's a marked improvement once we move to high or ultra. Textures become much clearer the higher we go, with more debris rendered in the distance as well. Here we start low this time as an example, now moving to medium, high and then ultra, and just for kicks back to low again. Note how the flat looking normal maps of this lower setting get a huge upgrade when moving to the high and above. This preset basically adds a form of parallax occlusion mapping, a type of mapping that deforms terrain to give the surface a more 3D effect.
The Imperials are taking that escape pod. We need to stop them. Direct all firepower on that walker.
Number 3. Maps aren't as dynamic as the Battlefield series. Now, we've only seen 3 maps so far, and though each looks amazing, there are limits to what DICE is striving for in Battlefront. It's fair to say the Walker Assault stage is the most technically ambitious of the bunch. The sight of giant AT-AT vehicles pacing across the tundra is unlike anything we've seen from the studio's previous shooters, but after a few games it's clear the ambition doesn't quite match up to Battlefield 4 or Hardline. The snag is this: at 40 players it's far less eventful compared to the 64 players chaos in Battlefield. Added to that, we also only see a limited use of physics-based destruction on each map. Outside of the huts in Tatooine, structures are for the most part static, removing a big part of the Frostbite 3 engine's appeal. And unlike Battlefield, vehicles are also only activated through power-ups found randomly on the ground. From a technical perspective, it's fair to say the scale and flexibility of this map doesn't match up to DICE's other work. Number 4. You don't need a top-end PC to run an Ultra. Having iterated on the Frostbite 3 engine since Battlefield 3, it's clear DICE's engine is really well optimized for PC. Multi-core support for CPUs sets it apart from the crowd, and in this Tatooine stress test with multiple enemies, it really holds its own. So what is this? Well, at the preview event we attended, we actually weren't handed a top of the line PC to play the game. Instead, Battlefront was running on something a bit more down to earth in terms of specs, which is good for getting a measure of performance for most people. So this is an i7-4790 processor with 8GB of main RAM and an AMD R9 290X. And as you can see, running with an unlocked refresh at ultra settings, we're going far above the 60 frames per second line here. At 80 FPS for the most part, there's a really strong overhead here in performance, meaning you can set VSync without any worries of stuttering below 60. Now bearing in mind this 290X card is now out of stock, and its successor, the R9 390, costs around £250, this is a really respectable turnout. It means you don't have to go breaking the bank to afford a top grade setting in Battlefront, and by implication, dropping a few presets we're willing to bet it'll run really well on budget cards too.
Not my best landing.
Lastly, number 5, each map has an opening cutscene. It's a shame Star Wars Battlefront has no true campaign mode, but even so we do get snippets of what could have been through each map's opening cutscene, letterbox cinematics that run entirely in engine. The opener to the wave-based Tatooine survival mission is a great example. It shows where DICE could have taken the solo mode, an effects-heavy scene that leads straight into its gameplay. As for what the other maps offer in this sense, we'll have to wait and see. We spot 7 multiplayer maps in total here on its menus, and hopefully they're each as ambitious as the 3 we've seen in this beta. How this compares to the experience on PS4 and Xbox One is a big question as well, something we'll answer once the public beta goes live on all formats. But that's all for now. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe below, and until the next one, thanks for watching.